Day, everyone out there, and welcome to yet another edition of our series titled How Chevron is Underdeveloping His Host Community, with particular reference to the IRDC and CICD models. In this edition, we shall be looking at another perspective of the system of underdevelopment that Chevron has put in place. Now, when I say that Chevron has put in place a system of underdevelopment, as a student of philosophy, I elect to back such assertion up with credible and reliable pieces of evidence. We all agree, for instance, that Chevron is a very powerful influencer on earth in the world generally. And one should give to Chevron that it has that capacity to influence. In other words, that Chevron is a leader in the industry. And one inalienable quality of a leader is that he has the capacity to influence. And what do we mean by influence? Influence is the ability to make a person do what he would otherwise not do and not do what he would otherwise do. For example, if a graduate and one who is truly exposed, who is truly educated, gets married to a woman from the village and they stay in the same house for 10 years, if that graduate is truly educated and that graduate is a true leader, the graduate's prowess should somehow rub off on the wife, shouldn't it? Of course, yes, it should. And that is what we mean by influence. Also, if you have a friend with whom you have been moving along for some time, and perhaps the friend is in a higher grade than you, perhaps even the friend is your mentor, it is expected that in the course of time, you will be able to absorb some of the friend's traits and ideals and exhibit them. Now, how does this play out with our example between the community, the host communities, and Chevron itself? Let us admit the fact that both reside side by side within the same social milieu, within the same social environment. And so, with the presumed height that Chevron is, one would expect that over the years, especially when it comes to an initiative which Chevron is spending its money on, one would expect that over a period of 1 decade, more than 10 years, we have had the IRDC and we have had the CICD. Within this period of time, logic will dictate that Chevron, with its cream of well selected graduates, experts who were properly screened, employed, and sent for training and sent for continual capacity building, will be able to impact, to influence those with whom they sit down and negotiate the fate of their communities. Now, this is important because many have said that the community and their leaders are the ones to blame, and that they do, in fact, share some portion of the blame. Of course, they do. But the point I have made is that in relation to the capacity, the endowment, and the status of Chevron, when compared to that of the community, which is downstairs, in my opinion, it is expected that the company should be able to raise up, influence the community. There is nowhere in the world where a founder does not have some quantum of influence over the beneficiary of his fund. For instance, once upon a time in Nigeria, the World Bank gave loan to Nigeria and it was dictating a lot of things. It dictated Nigeria's macroeconomic policy. It determined a lot of things. And so it is from that angle that I contend that Chevron ought to and should, as a matter of fact, do more than it is currently doing. I, in the course of this presentation, we'll get to a point where we'll start focusing on the communities. But like I have said times without number, the moment a foreigner comes into a locality like this, that foreigner injects a difference into the social space. And that difference is what we're talking about. Chevron, as a company that is made up of well selected hands and brains, ought to be able to manage its interventions, namely the IRDC and CICD, into which billions of naira have been expended. The company ought to be able to manage it very well and be proud of the final result that has come from the money that they have expended. And that is the point that I'm making. So, I am saying that it is not enough for those who are pro-Chevron to argue that Chevron is coming to do business and nothing more. The world today is a global village. Of what good will it do Chevron for Chevron to read in the books that they spent 40 years in a community, and the only thing, the impact they have in the community is the disarray we currently have in it? That does not make sense. It doesn't show responsibility, corporate responsibility in my view. And I'm sure that many reasonable persons will feel the same way. And so, Chevron needs to sit down. We need to rethink these two initiatives. These are very potent weapons with which to uplift the lives, the socio-economic lives of the people in the region. One critical part of the defect with Chevron's current approach is that it is completely, in my view, devoid of people-centeredness. In other words, it is not being driven by the people, and Chevron does not care so much about that fact. The point is, majority of the people in this community do not have a say in the policy development and decision making into the IRDC and the CICD. And I believe that Chevron believes, at least in theory, that its approach should be people participatory, should be people centered, and it should be utilitarian. That is, trying to achieve the greatest quantum of happiness for the highest number of persons or people. And that is the foundation upon which democracy is defined. The most popular of which is that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people, meaning that it's all about the people. Currently, I can tell you very, very confidently that majority of the people in Chevron host communities do not have a say, don't even know a lot of what we have spoken about in the different series that were presented before now. And therefore, what Chevron has entrenched is a policy that is oligarchic in stature. It's a government of the very, very few, by the very, very few, and for the very, very few. And so, there is a need for us to revisit it. My interest in all this is to have a better set of cluster of communities, is to have a better local government, is indeed to have a better world. And that is what you and I should try to advocate and pressurize Chevron to do. There is a need to dismantle the current structure and entrench one that is truly democratic and speaks to the yearnings and aspiration of the people. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you.